Hi friends, it's Bonnie with Turquoise and Tufa, and I thought we would go through the next group of pages, starting with pages 6 and 7. These pages are very obviously inspired by the beautiful forms of nature, and they're some of my favorite because they're just so special. We'll start off with an incredible butterfly brooch by none other than Liz Wallace. I think there is just no one else out there like Liz who is able to give this elegant, feminine touch to natural forms. Her work is just as elegant as can be. Look at the turquoise in the wings here. Isn't that incredible? And then you can imagine if I pinned it on, and again, the objects in the camera appear much smaller than they do in real life. So you can imagine how beautiful this brooch is. The next piece says, I'm already wearing. They're these sweet beetle earrings that are vintage Navajo. Let me take one of them off. How cute is that? So there's depth and dimension to them. And I also love that the turquoise has changed colors over time. So you have one with a more green look and one with a more blue look. They're just so sweet. You often see these as pins, but you don't see the earrings as frequently. I saw these when I was on my trip to Utah and Arizona, and I made so many different stops looking for jewelry that I would place in the catalog. And believe it or not, I did not find very many pieces of jewelry. I think I found 3 different pieces altogether. And that's it. There just wasn't a lot out there that was at reasonable prices and that really blew me away. But I was thrilled to bring these sweet little bugs home. The next piece is this glorious butterfly bracelet, and it is by Frank Patania Sr. It came to me with a collection of Frank Patania Sr. pieces, and I think that I talked a little bit earlier about how I will have some jewelry in this catalog that is not native made because Southwestern jewelry history is the intersection of different cultures making jewelry and influencing one another. Frank Patania played a huge part in the Native American jewelry trade with his Thunderbird shop in Santa Fe and employed people like Louis Lemay, Julian Lovato, and even Mark Chi. Frank Patania Sr. was an immigrant from Sicily, a master metalsmith who eventually found himself in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he opened the Thunderbird shop that actually employed quite a few Native American artists who became well known in their own right. Patania's style was modernist, clean, elegant, beautiful, as you can see in this bracelet, which look at the dome on this piece. Can you see that? Let me put it on. It's a little too big for me, but it wows you. It really does. The Wheelwright Museum of the American Indian did a beautiful exhibit this year on the work of Julian Lovato. Julian Lovato was a silversmith who was for a time employed at Frank Patania's Thunderbird shop in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I wanted to read to you a little bit from this catalog that came from the exhibit. It was so sweet because Gail Bird sent me this catalog. I wasn't able to get it when I was there because I was just so into the jewelry and I totally forgot to get one of these catalogs, but it's a beautiful little catalog. If you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend it. And I wanted to read to you this little bit. Frank Patania this is from Julian Lovato, what he said in 1991. Frank Patania was just like a father. That's where I began to get the idea that if I concentrate and work hard, I can do it. He helped me develop into what I do. And then it says, the Thunderbird shop was a popular and fashionable location in Santa Fe. The Patania family's jewelry was known for its variety, craftsmanship, quality, and design, and the shop was a gathering spot for artists and socialites. Lovato was lastingly inspired by his experience working for the Patania family. Here, by his own admission, he completed his jewelry apprenticeship, learning the value of sketching prior to making jewelry. He initially worked alongside Frank Patania Jr. Frank Patania Jr. is the one who had the brass bracelet that I showed you earlier, eventually rising to the position of chief silversmith by the mid-1960s. And then this other little bit, because I really want to emphasize this point that there were multiple players influencing one another from different cultures in the Southwestern jewelry scene, even in the Native American Southwestern jewelry scene, which is why I am including these other artists. So this says, if traditional Native American jewelry designs visibly influenced the Patania aesthetic, Patania's designs in turn inspired a new generation of Native jewelers to reimagine traditional forms and reconceive the balance between silver elements and cut stone. This creative reciprocity is visible when comparing Lovato's work to that coming from the Thunderbird shop. So I'm wearing another Patania piece, this necklace with the same butterfly theme. It's the kind of necklace that you put it on. It looks so simple, but you put it on and your entire look changes. And another neat crossover with this piece, I once had a couple years ago a very similar necklace like this that was actually done by Jolene Lovato rather than Frank Patania Sr. Next, I'm wearing this ring, which actually is so interesting. It came out of the same collection as the bracelet and this necklace, but it is not signed. However, if you look at it, there are these little details that make me think it very much came from the Thunderbird shop. Can you see this little wire work here on the side? It's just an additional little element that likely would have been something you would have seen at the Thunderbird shop. Again, we have this butterfly theme. We have another flying bug. This one with dimension. See the stamped wings? I love the dimension on this. This one is a pin. So there is that sweet pin. And then another little brooch we have is a Zuni piece. And it's a flower. And this one comes again from my friend Sally Stark. Many of you may have known Sally. She worked our shows at the El Dorado when I was with Martha Strever. She usually worked the contemporary case. She was an artist herself and had this incredible eye for unusual and wonderful pieces. So this is one of hers. And I told you that ever so often in the catalog I would show you something that didn't make it in, that I wanted to include, but I just didn't wind up having room for. This is another little bug pin. This one is a spider. Actually, he's not a pin, he's a pendant, which I think is so cool. Just a little tiny pendant, so you could wear him around your neck. I know it's hard to see him, but he's so sweet. Moving along to the next pages, we're taking a little bit of a leap because we're going into some very, very contemporary pieces, although we have one more pair of Frank Patania Sr. Thunderbird shop earrings that came out of the same collection with the necklace and with that incredible butterfly bracelet. These are not part of a butterfly theme. You can see this hallmark on the back, hopefully. And these were converted from clips. A lot of the earrings that you find from the Thunderbird shop are actually clips. And people much prefer posts. And I already have a lot of clips in this year's catalog, so I thought I would go ahead and have these converted to posts. They're really, really pretty, and you can wear them with so much. Even though they have a contemporary look to them, I think they look really pretty with some older vintagey pieces like Navajo pearls, or even if you have the right squash, or if you have certain hishi necklaces, like the white clamshell hishi necklace I showed you earlier, they actually look really great with it. The theme of this page is kind of circles. I have a beautiful Yazzie Johnson and Gail Bird ring. And I believe this is a black star sapphire. It's so lovely. And it is set in 14 karat gold. It's an earlier piece of theirs that is signed with a Y. Some people out there think that every piece that is signed with a Y is just Yazzie Johnson without Gail Bird. And yet, if you look in the book, you will see that in their earlier jewelry together, they did sign with this Y hallmark. You'll notice that it kind of has a similar look, playing on the circles and the beads as these earrings, even though a different metal. Next, we come to this pin, this brooch or pendant by Eugene Nelson, which is just a gorgeous piece. But again, we have this circular and bead theme. I had, maybe for the past, I can't remember if it was just last year or also the year before, I had Eugene Nelson pieces, and they sold immediately. You all have caught on to his work and you love it, and I love that because I think it's just really, really good stuff. I'll hold this one up as if it were a pin, and then if it were a pendant, you can see that would be so cool. Let me, with those dangles, really a special piece of contemporary art here. We have this circular theme again with beads. Look at those terminals. We have 8, I believe this is the 18 karat gold here. This is by Jolene Eustace. And this is kind of a play on very early historic bangles that you would see, narrow silver bangles, but it's done in a very contemporary design. It's kind of like a knife edge up here. I love this look. Whether it be stacked or worn alone, it's too big for me, which is so unfortunate, or else I would be really tempted to keep it. But you can see all of the great design you have going on there, and then boop, those terminals. But we have another piece from the private collection of Martha Streever. These are faceted beads, and I think they are probably wood. And then we also have round beads. These are by Joe and Terry Reano of Santo Domingo, Pueblo. And look at the way that they catch the light. They're just so cool, and extra cool because if you know Joe and Terry's work, you know that they work in the traditional old style of bead making. And so what they usually come up with is very, very traditional fine turquoise beads or hishi beads. This is a new direction. It's highly contemporary and yet still by the masters. So let me get this on for you. And of course, if you knew Marty, it makes sense that she would have this piece. It just totally makes sense. And I can just hear her the first time she saw it raving over it. Okay, so you see this necklace. Nobody would know that this was by traditional master bead workers. No one, except it is. These earrings were contenders for the cover. In fact, my sister thought that these should be on the cover instead of the Loloma earrings because they looked a little bit better with copper. It wasn't such a marked difference and contrast between the materials in the Loloma earrings and the old copper bracelet, but I decided to just go for it and do the really standout contrast there. They're 18 karat gold and garnet stones with jasper down below, and as always, such an exquisite combination. A little more understated than some of the Gail and Yazzie earrings that we have, but what a combo here. And in my mind, what a combo would it be if you paired this get up with something like that very early copper bracelet. It just asks people to inquire, what in the world? And again, here's more Yazzie Johnson and Gail Bird. The final star of this page, I am absolutely in love with. I'm in love with all of this. It just comes down to what I'm just dying over because it's so wonderful. But this Starman, how fantastic is he? He's a pin, a brooch by Joseph Coriz. I mean, look at the texturing and then those stars. What a statement. He could be added to this get up and you would look just drop dead gorgeous. I mean, I have not seen anything else like this. And it's another piece that you put it on, I guarantee you people are gonna comment on it. And the more I look at jewelry like this and then see pieces posted online from high-end department stores, I just think, is there really any comparison between totally handmade, original, inspired art or more mass-produced with high prices just because maybe a piece of jewelry is name brand? It just blows my mind that there would even be a question as to what is more exciting. I have an absolute heart for great beads. It just does something to me. And I feel like the longer you are a collector, the longer you admire this jewelry, the more of a soulful experience you get from the jewelry, the more you start to go after the beadwork. Look how tiny this is. And yet, despite how tiny it is, look at how Benny did this beautiful pattern. This is all handmade. Let me put it on. Just the teeniest necklace. And yet, it's not too tiny to stand out because of the way the turquoise drops down at the bottom into the multiple strands, and you can see it. I love this necklace. I think it is so special. It is unsigned, made circa 1980. And notice, even though this is very traditional in look, and I'm wearing these very contemporary earrings, they go together. There's the same unified spirit in the jewelry, even this ring. And so it's really fun to mix and match and find pieces from different artists, from different traditions that speak the same language. That's what we're looking for in this catalog. We are looking for dialogue. Oh, and I wanted to bring this back just to show you. So this is microfine heishi, the teeniest, and this is very fine heishi. So really, really pretty there. Now, I want to show you some earrings that were done by Morris Musket. I showed you Morris's old style hoop earrings with the little copper bead that were on the inside cover. Now these are rain clouds. And again, Morris uses what he calls primitive techniques and early tools. These are signed. And Morris is primarily a weaver, but he is getting into jewelry, and he said he is most inspired by the old style jewelry. I love that these are rain clouds because, oh goodness gracious, we need rain here. We really, really need the rain. So see the clouds, and then we have the raindrops coming down. These are statement earrings. They're really statement earrings. They are gonna go with any of your beaded or heishi necklaces. They're just gonna look great with it. And very affordable for what they are. I mean, they're heavy, nice sterling silver. So we have that. And then I'm gonna move on to page 11 so I can keep these earrings on for a little bit. What I was doing with page 11 was showing different ways of decorating, from highly contemporary silver work done by Norbert Peschlakai or Cody Sanderson, these notches that he cut out, which is very sculptural in design, to this, I would say 1930s, 1940s copper cuff. But so look, just different ways of decorating. Here we have very fine stamp work, and here we have file notch work and stamp work inside. So there's the Norbert. And then Cody's, this is more of a bangle bracelet. Again, kind of looking back to some old style bangles we would find, but highly contemporary. So they look great stacked, they look great alone. And then this I thought was so cool because compared with this Norbert, which is just precision stamp work, and even Cody here, where you have very orderly notches going on, this is imperfect. You can see it almost looks like someone might have been learning what they were doing here. Can you see that? You have some crosses or perhaps some dragonflies. Copper, we're back to copper, and this is back to the private collection of Martha Streever. So a really neat piece. Somewhat different design language, and yet we've got dialogue going on here, right? Look how nice the Yazzie and Gail ring. Back to page 10, and I don't want to say a whole lot about it now. I'll talk more about it when we get into some of the necklaces, but I received a collection of fantastic Aguilar family jewelry that a daughter inherited from her sweet mother who passed away. They had come out to Santa Fe together, and they had met Wayne Aguilar. This was, I think, in the late 1990s or very early 2000s. And Wayne sold all these pieces to the mother, and now the daughter has inherited them, and she wants them to go to someone else who will love them. I am calling them Aguilar family pieces right now, rather than attributing to either Wayne or Tony Aguilar Sr. And I'll get more into that in a bit. These are signed with the TA hallmark, there you can see it, which is typically the hallmark that Tony Aguilar did later on in life, Tony Aguilar Sr. Typically, Wayne Aguilar, the son, would do this hallmark with a kind of starburst around it. But these earrings, I'm not going to attribute to father or son, okay? And we'll talk about that later. What I want to talk about with these earrings, whether Tony Sr. or Wayne made them, is how cool they are. And let me show you why. So you have these neat half hoops with nice turquoise in there, or you can wear these as just the turquoise. So you have essentially two looks for the price of one by a very prominent family from Santo Domingo, Pueblo. And you could also even get three looks for the price of one if you wanted to put a different stud on this half hoop. So you see there, you can wear, if you want something a little bit smaller and just a pop of color, or if you want something bigger, you can go with the whole shebang there. Later on in the catalog, you'll see a pair of Tony Aguilar coral earrings, and I haven't tried it, but I am almost positive that if you were to buy both pairs, you could interchange the coral with this hoop too. So we have these earrings, and now jumping forward to page 11, I have another pair of really great earrings. These are by Charlie Bird, and you have inlay of turquoise, and you have inlay of mother of pearl, and then I think the brown in there is actually part of the matrix in the turquoise rather than separate shell. But these are really pretty. These are actually clips, but they're comfortable. They are omega clips rather than the old, less comfortable type of clips. And they make such a pretty statement. I actually have my own pair of Charlie Bird earrings that I purchased from Martha Streber's estate because I love his work so much, and you don't see it a whole lot. So these are very wearable. They actually, I don't know if you can tell, but they look beautiful with this necklace. They would look so pretty with the white clamshell Hishi necklace. So many different looks we can do with this jewelry. It's hard not to get greedy and want it all because it's just all so phenomenal. Moving to the next page, we are moving through different decades of jewelry, but the different decades kind of look good together. And I wanted to show you on this particular 2-page spread, there's a little bit of a theme of stars, like the night sky. You obviously see the early Navajo manta pin with the stars. You see the Cody Sanderson ring with the stars. And then you see the Jimmy Harrison earrings with the night sky. And even the Richard Aguilar necklace could almost be seen as like little stars twinkling. I'll start with this Richard Aguilar because I need a necklace. So this Richard Aguilar is another microfine Hishi, hand done, so good. It is signed. I think it's the only one of the fine Hishi necklaces that I have that is actually signed. But look at this. This is all done by hand. And think about when he is working with these different strands, he has a symmetry of placement here. See that between the pipestone and the turquoise, and then we go down. Oh, it's truly exquisite. Okay, so here is Richard Aguilar's necklace. I've mentioned before, I'm wild about beads. I just think there is nothing like them. They get me so excited because it's kind of like your own little secret, knowing how special they are, knowing that they were made in the old style. Let me show you the ribbon. So, he got a nice big ribbon for the 2018 Cherokee Art Market for this necklace. Okay, so I've got the Jimmy Harrison earrings. These are clips. Aren't they pretty? I've seen a lot of Jimmy Harrison's inlay work, and I think these are my very favorites. I just love the theme of the night sky. I love the look of these being so contemporary with a very traditional style necklace. And I told you all that I would be showing you some additional pieces from time to time. I have a Jimmy Harrison ring that matches the earrings. Fun. And to me, it's just meaningful that this is a night sky with stars, because you all know I lost my mom last year, and I love to look up at the night sky, and I look at the stars and I think of Mom, and I wonder where she is. I wonder if she's somehow closer with the stars now, and if she sees them on a different level. So to me, this kind of a scene is very meaningful. There is also a bracelet, and these just would not fit in the catalog. I every year try to limit it and wind up having too many great pieces to limit, but there is the bracelet. So if you are somebody who is into matching sets, there are some matching sets in this catalog. I just didn't choose to display them that way because, again, I wanted us to think a little bit deeper. They were left as buttons, and someone just added a post. So you still have the glory of the early button. If you wanted to, in fact, remove the post and not have them as earrings, but return them to their original form, you could do so. And these look really great with the Richard Aguilar necklace too. I hope you can see them. I'll try to move a little bit closer. Let's see. There. I just love them. They're after my heart. They're so after my heart. And I think, again, they look so great with this one. They look great with, I keep pulling this back out, this white clamshell. They look great with this. They would look great with your coral. Any of these traditional style necklaces, you can wear them with. Even our teeny tiny Benny Aguilar. I think you're going to be shocked at the size of this Monta pin, which is just a standout. And again, I've got stars, or I had the stars, right? Kind of like stars here. And this Monta pin has the stars. Look at the size of this. It's a sculpture in its own right. Somebody needs to have a stand made for this and just display it, because it is incredible. You do not find these early Monta pins anymore. This would have been worn by a woman. She would put on her shawl, and then she would pin it on with this, which is just incredible. Look at the old handmade findings back here. Look how thick that pin is. It's such a gorgeous piece, and I am so happy to have this in the catalog. This was a contender for the cover. In fact, a lot of pieces were contenders for the cover this year, but I don't know if you're gonna see one like this ever again. And I know this is gonna sell immediately because it's that special. I put this in the first catalog I ever did with Turquoise Tufa, which was the Marty Strever collection. This is Cody Sanderson, and it is a scorpion. Do you see him, how he stands out there? So this was Marty's scorpion ring, and I pulled it from that catalog because I couldn't let it go. And I thought and I thought and I thought about it, and I decided that I should let it go to somebody else now. It's just so special. I've never seen Cody do another one of these. And we're back to the star theme with the stamp work. And then inside we have stamp work too. This is an early Cody piece. This, I believe that Marty had prior to me even working. I think she already had this when I came to work with her. So she probably acquired this in 2003 or 2004. So very, very early Cody Sanderson. And as far as I know, truly one of a kind. Earrings are just after my heart in a way that nothing else exactly is. I think beaded necklaces are getting up there now, but I just love earrings. If I have one piece that I put on each day, if I could only have one piece that I put on each day, it's a great pair of earrings. And boy, these are a great pair of earrings. I had a pair like this in my catalog maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and they sold immediately. I'm gonna warn you, these are very, very expensive because they are very rare and they're absolutely striking. They're blue gem turquoise, they're Zuni, and just about the best pair of Zuni earrings you've ever seen. They are so fantastic. And for me, I mean, look at the change in me when you have this side and then you have this side. When I put them on, they just change everything about me. Something that I love to do whenever I have something that is really nerve-wracking for me, like a doctor's appointment where I go and I have to do some kind of a test I don't want to do, or I have to go receive results that are scary, I put on my best pair of earrings and I feel like they're my superpower, and they help me get through some scary times. In fact, some years ago, right after Marty had passed away, and I was just at a very low point in life, and I had to go down to MD Anderson, and I was terrified. And I wore my best pair of earrings in that room, in my little hospital gown with my little hospital bracelet on. I was so sad over losing Marty, and I thought, am I going to get this terrible diagnosis? But something about knowing I had these incredible earrings on made me feel like a person again. And I thought, I'm gonna be okay. And I was okay. So if you need a little tip on how to feel better when you encounter nerve-wracking appointments, put on a really great pair of earrings. And again, these are some of the greatest. Thank you, friends, for staying with me. I know I get wordy. There's just so much love I have for this art form, and there's so much I want to share with you. I try to keep the videos shorter, and I just can't seem to do it. So please join me for pages 14 and forward for the next video. Thanks again. Bye.